on smart cities. So as the agenda of how I will be taking you forward is I will be taking you how the challenges of geospatial data plays impact on smart cities and what is the smart cities development all over the world. Dr. Pushpa had mentioned the 100 smart cities in India, but throughout the world, there are 1,000 smart cities coming up. Personally, getting involved in the Western countries of how the smart cities were under construction and how the geospatial data had a major role in it. So the common analytics or the data I would say that has a major chance of challenges in data science is I would say data. So data is what we are all are collecting and how the shaping of the data fits in the tools and system of our analytic world. I think you all must have heard of the buzzword coming across machine learning, AI, IoT, and what is the major impact that's happening in our real estate industry. These kind of technology that we are all going through, it's nothing but making our life more sustainable, more technology free, and how the development happening in our industry now. How we're integrating the workflow and the system, the delivery that is being taken care in the analytics world. And the major part, I would say, is the geospatial analytics. Now, the geospatial analytics is a very small part of data science, but it is definitely a major part in our own analytics world. And I would say that this plays the location mapping in our smart cities. Going ahead, we have the four elements in our data integrity of how today's infrastructure and what happens for tomorrow's technology and how the data is emerging from these technology. The verification of this data, how we understand it, how we do the data pre-processing, what is the final outcome of the data, what kind of algorithm we can play with this kind of data, and what is the business decision that we can come up with. The location. Location is what comes with geospatial. I would say the analysis of location data is most important, not only in our perspective, but also in the business administration in order to have a superior outcome of what we finally achieve in smart cities. And when we come up with the closure or the prediction of the data, we come up with the power, how we enhance the decision making, and finally, what kind of business and location of this kind of consumer data it takes ahead. I would say these three main ideas behind the geospatial is very important for us to understand in smart cities. Spatial processing in order to understand how our data is analyzed and is being integrated. The data science that I was talking about, how we are really coordinating with the data scientists around us. Are we really knowing that our data is being taken and we are being predicted with that? I will show you in the upcoming slides. How do we integrate this kind of data? What is the large scale data that we are using? Finally, the location wise data and the quality of how it's being achieved. I would like you all to concentrate in this slide because if you notice, these are the few smart cities throughout the world. First is Seoul, South Korea, which is one of the best identified smart city. Singapore, definitely it's there. Germany, and the list goes on. London, where I stayed for about 3 years, and how the development, how the technology helped us to interact and made our life easier, including the safety and security. Definitely, this kind of analytics is used with major acceleration of how the scale of the data is being used. Now, the big data, what we talk about, the streaming of analytics, the interactive dashboard that today I will be showing you a demo of how the interaction of the dashboard is being considered. The spatial tempo visualization, that is part of the GIS, that is a geographical information system. That is what comes under the geospatial analytics. Then finally, we come up with the data science acceleration, the database, the insight rendering, and finally the visual analytics of what actually we have been achieving. I would tell you the further use cases in some of the industries. Definitely the network and reliability and the design optimization. How are we using our data with the help of smartphones? I think you all are aware with our smartphones, our data is being documented, our data is being collected. What are we doing it? Is the data being privatized? If you're ordering or you're ordering a food from Swiggy, the data is being collected from the address, it's being taken care. How regular you are in doing Amazon shopping, what is the mode of air condition that you're using at your home, what is the frequency that happens, what number of people come and meet you on daily basis, what is the kind of commute that is being considered from your home and to various others location. So this kind of data which unknowingly we all are being sharing with others. The other major case is the telematic industry. If you have heard how Uber and Tesla are starting the technology of autonomous vehicles, how the autonomous vehicles in USA is being working, and that kind of case study is having a real improvised, and definitely there are challenges. There are cases wherein we see a lot of evidence behind this connected vehicles, but definitely it has a major addition to our real estate. Then the last thing I would say, the smart meters. How the smart meters plays a major role in our industry. How the metering of each and every residence or the commercial of places is being recorded. If there is any leakage, it's been calculated. The usage is being reduced. What is required is being used. The wastage is being avoided. This kind of technology with the use of smart meters for each and every industry is how to monitor, track, and reduce any crime that is happening in the industry. So, how successful this kind of technology is. This is just a percentage that I came up with just to explain you, because definitely throughout the world, it's a start of this kind of data science and geospatial technologies. But presently, at this stage, it's only 33%. Definitely, it's a start, but this won't reduce. But I would want you all to know that the presence of data science, the AI technology, and the study that's done by Forbes is how the success rate is increasing and how geospatial data is being used. This is one of the example I would like you all to highlight. Notice here is the location intelligence, how the location information and the millions of customer records is being considered. As I told you, how the location mapping is happening, how we automatically, the location intelligence team try to identify and predict the movement, the access of the location, how well your location is being connected, how well the connectivity takes place, how the big data which is stored in the cloud can be used as a technology for the customer to make the enrichment in the geospatial analytics, how the quality indicator is being used with this major mega data. So we are trying to use this kind of geolocation successfully, but how the best data science is what we are trying to achieve. Definitely the success of data science project will reduce the cost, that is what the study says. And we all should agree with that. Definitely a technology is involved, but when a technology is there with an expense, it finally give with a good result. So I would say the location intelligence is a method or wherein the management analyze the data, visualize and try to predict using the machine learning algorithms in order to see what the final outcome is in the database. So I would like you to show you a small demo of how actually the database works. So if you see now, I try to consolidate the Hong Kong database, wherein if you see on the left side, how the data is being considered in a geo map way. And on the left side, you can see what number of devices is available. What is the unique towers that is being collected. If you notice on the top side, you will see how my Twitter data is being considered, the network history is being captured, the crowdsourcing data is being taken care, and how the vehicle movement data is being considered. So this kind of data is being used for you to analyze, for you to study and see how the movement is being taken care. If you all are aware, Twitter is the social media platform wherein the data is available freely. It means to say that we can use the data and we can also use it in a various other methodology for a data scientist so that they can predict or they can analyze and give you a proper report. This other data that I was mentioning about the crowdsourcing data, the network history data of how the various analysis of a city or a country is being considered. So this dashboard is prepared with the help of the tools like Power BI, ArcGIS, various others programming like Python, R. So this is how we usually develop with the help of various tools involved. So if you see on the left side, you will notice how the map here and the blue spot, you can see the presence of the people there, how what is the number of usage in that particular area, how the area is being identified, who is available at what time of the day, what time is it being capturing, what number of record is it being considered. So with the data that we collect, this is what different kinds of attributes we are trying to represent and how the customer, the area, the network and the media we are trying to identify. If you see on the plot on the right, my right side, the plot of retency and throughout, you notice how the peak hours is being identified, why there is a crowd movement in that particular area for that amount of time, how the pitch is being identified, what is the statistic that you would like to analyze. So this data, if you notice, we had taken in December 2019 and January 2020, and we try to identify the number of data and the movement that it was working on, whether it's weekly, monthly, daily, or on the different kind of rhythm that we create. Going ahead, I would like to show you another example wherein we try to identify one location and wherein the latitude and longitude of that location is being tracked and being uh, executed to the main officials in order to see if there is any protocol or if there is any challenges in that area. So this is for the vehicle movements in New York City, wherein the data, if you see how it is mapped, how we could zoom that area and we could try to find out where is this different aspects involved in the present collision or the average miles or the trips driven in that particular area. And if you notice, in that area, we also try to identify the location of the correlation plot, how the different parameters in the data is correlated. What is the maximum percentage that I could expect from the data? So this is a small output that I wanted you all to understand as a geospatial data scientist, what is our activity and how we use various algorithms to understand and to visualize the data, and finally to give a proper report and to have a finalized analytical mode. So if you notice in this use case, we have various outputs created. Firstly, is the dashboard that I was just presenting, how interactive it was. You mean to say how well it was communicative and supervised. With regard to supervised, I would like to say machine learning is being classified into two types. One is supervised learning and second is unsupervised learning. So supervised is how the analytic wherein it is hidden, the dependent variable is hidden and we need to create clusters to find out the prediction. So for the example, I would say is the prediction of the weather. What is the weather that we are expecting tomorrow? What kind of weather we could see when in a week or so? But if there is a critical part or if there is a disaster that is planning to happen, so that prediction also we can track and create with the help of the data. Now, when you come up with the operational uses, you definitely don't need any map, but you need big data. You need large amount of data. It has unsupervised learning. When you come to unsupervised learning, you try to understand what is the features involved with the unsupervised learning. What is the parameters, because there is no dependent variable as compared to supervised learning. Finally, when we try to unlock these things, we use the location intelligence in order to analyze the data in a geospatial way. I would like you all to understand what actually are we talking about data science. It is nothing but the analysis of data with regard to the polygon, the geography, the geometry, the algebra that we studied in our 8th to 10th grade, but we never thought in perspective of what actually we were doing. With this data science, I think this is a new technology that has been come up in this real world industry, and how the different aspects of geospatial is being considered in our architecture and real estate world. Now, to identify what we are really looking forward for, we are doing this in order to save time and have a better technology friendly city, to be more lenient, to have a better analysis of what actually having, and what are we really looking for. We are looking for a good standard of living. We are trying to communicate with each other with the help of technology. We are saving time. We are increasing our safety in order to have a better and a truthful life. I would say this kind of technology that we are talking about, it is also, it should be divided into these four aspects, whether it's location mapping, it's a feature selection, the data extraction that we were talking about, and finally, when we talk about the business insights, what is the decision that we can take with the data that we have. And when we talk about the location, this is where a geospatial data or an architect comes in picture, wherein they talk about the geocoding, the latitude and longitude of the location, what is the precise standardization and validation of the data. So the big data, that is the buzzword these days, and what the big data is talking about, what we can really understand with it, whether we input a data and we try to use the algorithms in order to predict. This is a simple words in order to explain what you mean by a ML or an AI. but definitely there are further algorithms, there are formulas involved in each and every aspects of these kind of big data analysis. Definitely this location intelligence is not an easy game, but if you have location being tracked in an hour, what kind of mapping, shuffling, and reduction of the data is being considered? When we try to do all this, definitely you have loads of data. It cannot be saved, so it's all been cloud, it's all been mapped on the server, and the data centers is what's been increasing these days when we talk about the data in the cloud survey. Now, when we come into the geocoding perspective, we precisely understand what the geocoding results in, whether it identify the address, the validate whether whatever you are tracking, it's validated or it is just random. We need to validate that, the addressing of street, the location quality, the standardizing of the address, and finally the geo hash ID. So these are the spatial information for the location ID and the standardization of how the customer location and the household level decision is being made. All this data is being stored in an cloud known as GitHub. So GitHub is one of the common place wherein all the codes are being saved in order to analyze and review the data and to see what examples or samples we can achieve with. So this is just an information that we all need to understand. Now, finally, when we talk about smart cities, what are smart cities? So frankly speaking, smart city doesn't have any predefined definition. So when Dr. Navneet was having a discussion, and I just told him when I spoke to him regarding this session, I wanted to you all to understand that smart city is not something which makes the city smarter, or this is what the normally that we talk about, but it is about how you analyze the city in order to solve a urban problem, how you improvise the effectiveness of a urban place, and that has 8 parameters that needs to be considered for a smart city. Now, a smart city has lot of dependency. Firstly, the government's approval, the budget, the cost that takes place, the also the objective that it is aiming for, the technology that is the major focus of a smart city. ICT, that is information technology, plays a major role to understand what is smart city and what is the effectiveness of a smart city. And definitely when we have all this technology, we are aiming to create jobs. So you all should understand that definitely when with my experience in UK, smart city was a much more relieving place, I would say, wherein we had been considered everything in our fingertips, and it was so very resolved. It was all being monitored, and definitely crime was reduced. These are the 8 parameters that I would like to talk. One is the smart admin, the safety of the citizen, and especially in India, we need to see the safety of how women needs to be considered in the priority wise. Smart transportation. Talking from Bangalore, I think not only our city, most of the hybrid cities have problem in transportation. So I won't say that, because London is half of Bangalore, and the way they have bottlenecks available in the central city of London, definitely Bangalore should develop, and with the presence of the population considered in our country, we need to have this proportion type of amenities available. The economy is where we need to all focus on, because the smart economy is where we need to have a priority. The energy and environment, I would say sustainability plays a major role in this smart environment. Smart health. For smart health, I would say an example of Singapore. because Singapore, I think it has leaded and excelled in healthcare facility. If you see in scenario like COVID-19, this pandemic has hit everyone, not only whether it's job, whether it's health, or whether they're families, but healthcare needs to be in a proportion of what actually we are trying to understand. Smart education, how the education can be smart, and what is the different kind of innovation that we have come up with. The welfare society is finally how the connectivity and the various other aspects are being considered. So if you notice, why are we really doing this? We are doing this for a good quality of life, for a good having sustainability and having a urban competitiveness. Definitely we have social, economic and environmental aspect, but also we need to consider technology. My parents are using technology to at least they can book an Ola with their mobile phones. If you rewind yourself 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, this kind of technology was not available at your fingertips, wherein you were able to do everything from your mobile phone. How the ICT plays a major role. What is the physical infrastructure that we are talking about? Now, the smart city technology, definitely the governance that we are talking should be very supportive, because unless the government is helping you to proceed, a city cannot be smart, and we cannot aim to have a combined city to grow in a better way. So the geospatial, coming back to geospatial, what we are really talking about, it was there in the industry, but it was not that in identified as now, because of smart cities, because of data, because of IoT, machine learning. From 1918, it was there as a centric, feature centric, and now it is there as a geospatial. So this is just a history slide I thought we all need to be aware of. So here I would like to show you what is the collaboration that OECD has done a research on, and what is the different KPI they have created for smart cities, and what is the key indicators that is being identified. And McKinsey has also put a study on it in order to see how the cost of living and jobs have improvised, how the healthcare, the social effectiveness and the safety is also being considered. It's very important for you to have an accessibility, how innovative it is, and how to participate in this kind of decision making. So when we come across with this kind of technology, what are we talking about? So are we talking about CCTV cameras around us? Are we talking about automotive car system having a more optimized system? Are we talking about intelligent digital signature? As in when you travel, the digital signature will change as per your need. The home energy management, how you're operating an air conditioning or a heating system in your home with the help of your mobile phones, how you're identifying the traffic bottlenecks and diverting your route in order to avoid traffic. What is the factory optimization that you notice in each and every industrial project? What kind of response you get, how the healthcare system plays a major role. Last but not the least, the smart grid. End of the day, what we're really looking for is smart grid. And smart grid is what a smart city is composed of. I would like to give an example of Glasgow. So if you all see in UK, we have Glasgow city, which is in Scotland. So this city, the government had won with 24 million pounds, and the government had sanctioned in 2013 that Glasgow will be identified as a smart city. Definitely, there were intelligent platforms created around to analyze the real-time data. There were few online dashboards which were available. There were hackathons for developers organized, not only for them, but also for the normal citizens. I was part of hackathons in Glasgow and in London, wherein we took part challenges and we tried to resolve using machine learning algorithm. We did the street lighting in order to measure the air pollution, the lighting levels, and also to track what kind of lighting we can analyze to detect the system. So this is just one of the example that I would like to give of UK and what is the things that we had faced. Please all notice here how we started up with an example of Singapore, I would say. The land size that you can see is about 279 square meter, and the population is that's increased from 1.8 million to 5.9 million in 2019. The GDP, you can see how it's been grown to about 3,000 times, from 1.9 billion to 400 million. So 400 times it's grown. What is the income that has been happened? So how Singapore, being such a small country and it's developed in such huge stage, this formation can be by starting in 1960 by basic formation of the housing. Then they went ahead with the development of the airport, which they had launched, which then in between they had a garden city plan. The Marina Bay for the Singapore was one of the plan that was launched, and the government had an estimation of some £1 billion in that, and what they have now achieved with the sport hub. So this kind of development and transformation of Singapore changed themselves into a smart nation, into a smart city. So this was launched by IBM. IBM was one of the few companies wherein helped as 100 smart cities forum around the world. They are also doing experts in India also, in order to support our country and see how we can develop into a smart city. This is one of the say of one of the Smart City World Congress in Barcelona, wherein he said the first concern is about jobs. So with new jobs, there are new skills, new education, and finally, this is what every citizen of every country is looking forward for. This is another example in Jakarta Smart City of how the citizen, the government, came across with each other to have a mission and mission in mind to come up with the technology, the cloud system, the AI, the blockchain, and what is the problem that the city is facing, and how we are trying to resolve it with the incorporation of innovation and technology that leads to a smart city. So this is a few representation of how a smart city framework was created, how a smart city ends up with the values, the principle that they come up with, the co-creator, the outcome, and the indicators. The smart living that we are looking for, the mobility that is a major priority these days in every city, not only in Bangalore. Now, when they come up with the planning, they came up with the basic plan of having an application, having a dashboard that I just showed you, the digital experience, the AI, and finally the collaboration that we consider and what kind of collaboration we finally achieve. This is one of the project. I was part of it, but the major goes to RSP Architects, wherein they consider as a Cisco Smart Campus in Bangalore. This project is one from my colleague, Mr. Srinivas, the director in RSP, wherein he worked on smart campuses. So the campus in the smart city itself, and Cisco tried to align their project similar to US. So you can see how the technology, how the area, and how well our country is developing and being compared with the live projects that is being completed in Bangalore. So this is what that I was going through in UCL London. This is all about the data. This is central London, wherein you see how the movement happens and how the variations, the color changes because of the time. There is the bottlenecks that they are created. So the geographic, that is the spatial and the subset of geospatial is nothing but the GIS modeling, and using the data science is how the location map is being considered. So when we talk about all this, we definitely talk about smart city. And what is smart city? You can say it is all about data and technology. When we talk about safety, the cost of living, the job opportunity, the social connectiveness, the environment available, the healthcare, and finally the time that is being considered for a smart city. So when we say the spatial data science, what is a spatial data science? So as a geospatial data science, I would like to say that when we have a question in our mind, we try to do a research, we create an hypothesis, and finally we try to analyze the data, whether the hypothesis is aligned to the data or not. We come up with a result, and if we are not successful, we try to go back to our hypothesis and try to navigate our experiments in order to get an appropriate result. So it's nothing but a research that we come up as a total GIS model. So this is another example of how the workflow happens from the data to the information and the knowledge and finally the wisdom. To conclude, I would say more the data, bigger the data, the better the outcome. The technology that is being so fastly used with various kinds of hardware and softwares, the visualization that is a major part in our geospatial data science, and the challenges that you all have seen in the larger community, and what kind of spatial problems that we all have achieved. Definitely this problems is not being resolved it so easily, and John Snow has already seen this about 150 years ago, and they are research articles published in this kind from UCL London, and they are still working on it and researching on these kind of technology. So with this, I would like to thank everyone, especially Dr. Navneet, who gave me an opportunity to share my knowledge on geospatial and to talk about what kind of technology we can come up with and what is the different kinds of smart cities development that we are seeing. So thank you all.
May I, because this is a topic I've attended for the first time, I was just thinking that the focus of your talk was primarily around transportation data, mobility data, and I didn't really understand the scope of, IoT, where vernacular technologies or traditional knowledge systems are concerned. So some input on that front will be welcome.
Okay, so when we talk about IoT, it is about technology in our industry. So IoT in other sense goes for blockchain, but for real estate, we talk about automation with regard to building industry. So I would like to give you an example of where my colleague did a project in Cisco Park, if you have seen that, in by RSP, wherein he tried to use the technology and he tried to analyze how the technology where Cisco was trying to help them in order to see how the building technology can be modernized, can be more securitized. And they were like, let me give you an example. In the entrance, you have an iPad that without touching you're being scanned. Because of this COVID, there's a lot of precautions being taken care. So these are the few technologies I would say which is used in our in our real estate. Definitely it has a role to play, but in different aspects, whether it's services, whether it's BMS system. We all are aware how BMS works, the CCTV. Mobility is just part of it, because we all are aware transportation is a major crisis happening. But building automation, which is a new technology that is coming up in India, but very common in London and Western countries. I would say this is what's good about us, that, you know, we are having this kind of technology introduced in our country, and especially in a Silicon Valley of Bangalore. So really happy to have this IoT introduced.
Uh, can I, would Jyoti take two questions which has come up?
Yes, Dr. Pushpa. So,
How does Jyoti look at the current status of the city of Bangalore being developed from master planning under SMART initiative?
sure. So I would like to indicate the smart cities concept, what's really working in other countries and what we are working in our country is, it's different. I'll just give you an example. When I was working with Larsen and Turbo, we were doing Jaipur smart cities. So Jaipur smart city, the criteria that we were working on were central city. We were working on improvised, as one of the architect Mona Lisa was mentioning, we were looking for infrastructure development. We were seeing how the accessibility, we are saving time. So this is what the smart city is being considered in India. But this kind of city development is different in Western countries. They try to use technology, they try to use geospatial data, and they try to see how the development and the smart initiative is being considered all around. So I would say Bangalore needs to develop with these technologies. It is not to par, I would say, to what presently the smart city board, whether you can say Singapore, Seoul, or Germany, but yes, it is still under development. So I would say it is still under development and it has lots to go on to be a smart city. Okay, the next question by Tabish Haider.
Yeah, I would also like to ask from also voicing someone else's question too. What is the role of architects in the building of smart cities? How do we play a role? Yes, IoT, I would say you're talking about data, collection of data, scrutinizing data, and taking it forward. Yes. But as architects, what do we do? Where do we come in?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your question, and the team. So firstly, I would like to say that I'm qualified as an architect. I was working as a project manager. When I was in L&T, my role was a pre-construction manager. Definitely a different role what was a designer is. I'm just telling you my experience. As an architect in building a smart city, it's like how an urban designer is working with regard to planning, with regard to coordination, with regard to estimation, and with regard to management. All these skills are there with an architect if you compare with other engineers. So I would say an architect is a fully fledged person who can handle in building a smart city compared to an engineer. So this is my personal experience. It is debatable, but definitely this is what I would love to give a feedback with my experience.
Yes, Jyoti, would you like to take one more question?
Yes, please. There is another question wherein
It says, is creating ways to generate and collect data in a city part of a smart city project itself, or the channel of creating data is separate?
okay, let me tell you one thing. As I told you in my presentation, thank you for your question, firstly. And your data is being monitored without knowing or unknowing. Let me tell you this point. So there is no separate project as such. Whatever data you are collecting, as I told, if you're ordering a meal from the location that you're traveling and the time that you're spending with your friends in WhatsApp or Facebook, it's been calculated, it's been tabulated, it's been collected, and it goes to data scientists like us, wherein we try to analyze and say, okay, we can target this customer in this kind of perspective. This is what data science is all about. So there is no separate project as such. It is all in one. It is only different perspective of how we are seeing it together. Thank you.
Okay, so Jyoti, you talk about coordination, and it is moving towards a team. It's moving towards a teamwork. It's moving towards understanding how technology has actually not only moved into our lives, but then, yes, some would say taken over our lives, but technology plays a major role in integrating whatever we have learned, the data we have collected, and then translating it into some sort of a admissible limit into the city where it becomes useful for all the people residents of the city. I would also congratulate you on the excellent presentation, which is watched by a few people, and that you have got great clarity. And the information has been extremely informative. I think I take this opportunity to thank all of you for having joined us in this challenge of the smart city. And yes, we are moving places. We are going from understanding how the earlier modes of creating architecture used to be, how the way in which urbanization changed, and then to bring in the technology, which has now become a be all and an end all for everyone. But I would say for an architect, as an integration of all this to take it forward and to make our lives much, much more livable. I thank COA TRC for having organized this and the collaborators.